Going? All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the White Sands Self-Care Community. I am your host, Laura Cross, and your resource for self-care and mindfulness. And today we have this wonderful lady with us who not only survived her own burnout journey, but she triumphed over it. Uh, yeah, well, yeah, and she's the best-selling author. She's got a best-selling guidebook, I would say, a guidebook of burnt out to lit up and ditch the grind and reclaim your life. So I would like to introduce you now to Cara Houser. And Cara, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Laura. It is such a delight to be here, and it's been really fun getting to know you and talking with you. So thank you.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring Cara on here is not just because she's in the group and so that you can all get to know her, but because what we're going to talk about today is going to be kind of brief, but we go into a lot more detail on her episode that's going to be coming up this Monday on Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross at 1 o'clock. So to hear more of the story and dig into those details, you're going to want to join us on Monday. But Cara, do you want to share with everybody a little bit about your journey and how you kind of triumphed from that, what led you to write in the guidebook?
Sure, thank you. So, like many people, I actually didn't even realize I was burned out. I just thought I was just doing all the things I was supposed to be doing, chopping down the list, getting it done, being everything to everybody, my job, my family, the community, extended family, all the stuff. And I mean, I knew I was off out of balance and out of alignment, and I was like increasingly just not feeling well physically and mentally, but I just thought, this is just how it is. Apparently I just need to suck it up and like whatever. And that's what I didn't realize at the time was that I was descending deeper and deeper into burnout and further away from really my core self and what I was even wanting to do in this life. And so it was very gradual. And like for a lot of people, for me, it took a pretty significant emergency family style wake up call for me to uh, pause, stop running 1,000 miles an hour and just sit down for a second, allow myself to feel where I was, cry my eyeballs out, and just um, descend into hell, it seemed like, for a little while, and then look around and say, okay, well, this isn't working. This is not sustainable for me or for my family or my friends. When we're so burned out, we show up crazy. We yell at people. We're just, our fuse is super short. When we forget how to have fun and how to relax and how to love ourselves, like what makes us think we can give those gifts and that presence to anyone else? We can't,
No.
is what I learned. Um, and it seems so obvious now, but in taking time away to recover and to reclaim myself and my life and what matters most and figure out how to take the energy I have and to spend it on the people and things that matter most to me. And in all of that, I learned something that feels so obvious in retrospect, which is that the more I nourish myself, the more I have to give to others, my work, the world. But most of us don't do that because we think it's selfish. We've bought into this notion that we're supposed to like, drain the ocean of everyone else's demands, and that we're supposed to do two full-time jobs, paid and domestic, in the time of one, and look and sound amazing doing it. Meanwhile, most people are kind of silently dying, thinking, well, everyone else can do this, why can't I? And of course, what we don't realize is that people aren't doing it. People are actually pretty miserable trying to do all that.
Yeah, I've met even young people that are working 2, 3 jobs, and I'm like, okay, since when did this kind of like become the new norm? Why do we have to work, 2, 3 jobs, and or I've seen some as many as 5, and I'm just like, wow, you know. But like you said, it's very difficult to be there for others and be pleasant because, yeah, how many of us actually notice that what is going on is actually affecting our attitude or our mood and everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So your book that you wrote it you wrote it differently. You wrote it like a guidebook, right?
I did, and I wrote it to meet people in the depths of burnout, which is where I was. And I still remember that place where I just didn't even know where to start. I did try a bunch of stuff, and I talk about it in the book. It's like a very, um, I tell you all my lessons learned the hard way, and all the stuff that tried, and how was it effective or not, and essentially have distilled it down into as brief, blessedly brief of a thing as it possibly can. It's not going to suck your life away. It's just going to take you step by step from not even knowing who to talk to, what thing to look at, where to start, what practice to begin, what thing to dump out of your life, like where to begin. And it meets you right there, and then takes you through this process. And there's 9 chapters, but they're largely in like 3 different kind of categories.
Mhm.
And the categories are: we start with making space in our physical space, in our mind, in our schedule, in all the ways.
Yeah.
And then once we've made some space, because if you're this burned out, you're totally overbooked. You don't, the last thing you need is to go like, start a new self-care regimen when you're thinking to yourself, well, how the hell am I going to get that into my schedule? I don't even sleep. And that's where the place that I was, right? And so we start by really taking stock of what we're doing with our time and energy, and making some really seriously strategic, self-caring decisions as to what needs to get pushed down the list. And then we rebuild with habits, practices, mindsets, vision, all those wonderful things that are based on what really matters to us. The whole process is really self-neglect through self-care, which is so important, assuming you're doing it for yourself and not because you're buying things that someone told you to, all the way through to self-possession. And when you're in a state of self-possession, you know exactly what matters to you. You're super in tune with your intuition and your values and your value as a person. And then the decisions you make as to how to spend your time and energy becomes so much easier because you're super clear on who you are and where you want to be. And then the last section is sustaining our gains. So this isn't some like fun thing that we did one time and then we move on and go back into burnout in 2 months. We say, okay, life is life. Things are going to happen. Things are going to be, I'm going to have challenges and stressors, whoop-de-doo. It's unavoidable. And so
Right.
when it happens, what can I do? So we talk about resilience and joy as really important factors that we use to keep ourselves really in that self-possessed, healthy space. And so that we don't ever go back to putting ourselves so far down on our to-do list that we just fall off.
Yeah. And then that's a good point, because how many times have we seen people like make these great changes and do this, but then they keep like breaking their own boundaries or whatever it is that they set, and next thing you know, they're back in the same circle.
We're just creatures of
Yeah.
habit, right? We build habits, and frankly, a lot of our lives are filled with habits that we don't even know why they're even there. And
Yeah.
so
Or why you do something a certain way. It's like,
why
why?
are we like, why do I wake up and look at my phone first thing in the morning, right? Like we do that because that thing is addictive, okay? But we can break that, and we can do something that's way more nourishing to ourselves in the morning and start off feeling like, haha, I have some agency, I can do this day, instead of, oh my God, the world is a horrible place, I shouldn't leave bed. Which if we get sucked down the rabbit hole of what goes on in the news and stuff, that's easy to do.
That's a whole other topic.
Yeah, we're not going to go there.
Yeah, no, we're not going to go there. We wouldn't have time to go there anyway. But yeah, and I think you and I were talking about that. I think part of that too is that no is a complete sentence. So many times we feel so obligated to take on this and take on that, and it's like, no. Sometimes you just
Do.
have to say no, and you don't owe them an explanation either.
We do. We sort of tie our worthiness to how useful we are. I know
Yeah,
I still do that, and we have to really be careful with that because we're worthy no matter what, right? We're born worthy.
right.
And so we need to think about, when I say yes to this thing, why? Am I getting bullied into it? Am I being clubbed? Like, what is it, because I feel like I won't be a good person? Like, what am I doing?
Mhm.
And then make really clear decisions, and have a yes mean a yes, and not this weird martyr syndrome, but like a real yes. Like, yes, I want to be there. I want to do this. And really think about, when you say that yes, what you're saying no to, right? Because you only have so much time. So when we say yes to something, that's no to something else. And so when we don't set boundaries and say no to the things we mean to, we end up saying no to the things that we actually need, but just aren't yelling as loud for our attention.
Right.
So, but it's such a huge just you could have it. I'm sure you have had a whole show on boundaries and healthy ones and how they keep us well and
We've touched on it. We have not had an entire show on it. We have touched on it here and there. It comes up because it's important.
I have a lady you can talk to actually. She wrote a whole book on this. We can talk about that later. But really, like
Yeah.
it is a really important thing. And you're right, we don't have to explain ourselves. Well, I would, but I'm sorry, but I just haven't slept in 3 days. Like people don't need to know.
We overshare.
And they really don't
Overshare
even half
or
the time want to know. They just are like asking, you know?
yeah. Yeah. So I know, like you said, we all have those things that still pop up a little bit, but after all the work and stuff that you've done and your journey, do you find it easier then to say, up, you can, and you recognize it sooner now when it pops
So
up to say,
much. Also being older helps. I mean, I just I it's actually almost too easy now, most of the time. I still have triggery things, I'm sure,
"Mhm,
like any person, I have to be aware of those. But for the most part, I love getting out of saying no to stuff so that I can just sometimes just chill. Sometimes it's not because I have something so important to do. I just said no because I need to like watch my show and take a nap. And like that's okay. There is no shame in that if that's what you need.
yeah, it's recognizing what you need and not having to, justify it. What you need is what you need. So,
And the only person that knows that is you. Right? We give our power away when we need the whole wide world to agree that what we need is what we need. Like, it's none of their freaking business. It's we
that's true.
why are we letting someone else make the decision how we spend all of our time and making sure that their comfort and happiness is first? It's not. We're the only people that person you're really responsible for, like 100% is you. And when
Yep.
we know that, we're like, "Oh, okay. I'm gonna keep my power where it is and take responsibility for my own decisions."
Yeah, 100%. And I have to laugh because there's times I still find myself doing that, and have to stop myself. I'm like, why do I feel like I have to justify? Because I really don't.
Yeah. But that stopping and asking
Mhm.
is so that's the whole thing. Like, if you can do that, if you can just even notice that you're feeling that you're just, for whatever reason, starting to do something that feels wrong, and then talk to yourself, then you can make the decision that you feel like making.
Yeah. And like I said, I know we go into a lot more detail about some of this and some of your strategies and tips to help people recover from burnout. But for now, because we're going to be out of time here soon, how are you working with people, and what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
I do one-on-one and group coaching, and I do workshops about all things well-being, leadership, and burnout recovery. And I have a course called Sabbatical in a Box, which really takes you through the things that you can find in the book, but in a more a, a little bit, a more robust way. And so there's a couple different ways to tap into that, and you can find me on LinkedIn or carahouser.com. And the book is really all over the place, but Amazon's the most obvious place that you can get the audiobook, the ebook, or the paperback.
Yeah, that is awesome. And you're also in the group here in the White Sands Self-Care community. So definitely reach out to Cara if you have, questions or whatever. I know I don't think we really shared with people, but your journey, you were in the real estate business, right? For 20
Yep.
plus years.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my first career. I was a housing developer for 20 years, and before I made the pivot to where I am now a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think anything with real estate or housing, as people know, is kind of kind of a roller coaster in itself anyway. So that already has a whole world of stress right there. But
It does.
it
Well,
does.
all careers do in different ways, but
They
yes.
do. They do in different ways. I think some a little more than others. It just depends. But I'm glad you found it through to the other side and are able to help a lot of other people help recognize maybe their burnout or help them recover from that. Because that's a huge part, being able to reclaim your life and get that
Mhm.
back. It's never too late. I always say,
It's
never too
never
late.
nope. And the best time to start was whenever, who knows? Really, the best time to start is today, when you notice that you want to.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Cara, I want to thank you for taking the time to share a little tidbits with everybody. And I'm glad you were able to get on here so people can get a little more feel for who they have in the group here. But yeah, for more detail and stuff, join us this Monday on Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross. You'll find it on the YouTube channel. It airs at 1 p.m. Central. And of course, you can always catch it on your own schedule later. And absolutely reach out to Cara if what she is saying is resonating with you, or maybe you're not sure, maybe it gets you to thinking, because we do go into more detail and stuff about, kind of recognizing the burnout and how to recover from it. Because like you said, a lot of us were doing what we're think we're supposed to do and not not realizing we are burnt out and it is affecting other things. So
Yep.
thank you so much for joining us today. And
Hey,
I look
Laura.
forward to having your episode and seeing what we can go, because that it was a fun episode.
I loved it. Thank you.
So thank you everyone for joining us, and we will see you later, but make sure you catch that episode or reach out to Cara. We'll have a good day.